Welcome to the Gender Finance Podcast. In this series, we sit down with finance leaders to hear their stories. Get ready for honest conversations, fresh insights, and inspiring perspectives on the future of finance and the role of women in shaping it.
Welcome to another episode of the Gender Finance Task Force. Today, I have the immense pleasure to welcome Daniela Klasen Martin, who is the country head and head of institutional banking of RBS International, which sits within the NatWest Group. She has a very impressive career. She has been in Luxembourg in the financial services industry for nearly 30 years, but has a career that spans longer than that. And she's worked in management positions in many big financial institutions here in Luxembourg, including Schroders, including Credit Suisse, including Waystone, and also Crestbridge. Thank you for being here today, Daniela.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time. And I think given that you have such a long career in Luxembourg, you've worked for many different institutions here. Would you say that you have seen a shift in terms of how banks deal with diversity and how a career progression for a woman is handled in a bank? Have you seen this change over the last decade, over the last 30 years?
For sure. I've seen a change, and it's been an interesting journey. Certainly things have changed quite a lot since I joined Luxembourg, though I must say I came in Luxembourg in 1997 and already thought it was quite an international center, even in 1997, in particular as I was coming from, at the time, from Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent 5 years in Paris and 1 year in Stockholm before coming here. And I was working in the automotive business at that time. And so one would think, finance is quite male-dominated. Mm-hmm. Well, nothing compared to the automotive business. I think that was an interesting...
That's another step up from finance.
It was a change, and I think it was a change for sure. So where have I observed the difference? So when I started to work, generally speaking, whether it was in Paris or even in Sweden at that time, or Luxembourg, it was much more hierarchical, and there was much more an unspoken expectation that you should fit into an organization. Mm-hmm. So, you were there for a job, performance. And so inclusion, personal motivation, I wouldn't say it wasn't on the agenda, but you can see that we have shifted quite a lot, much more towards that inclusion and motivation. I think that we have evolved over time into a more human, emotional leadership, and managers, leaders have become much more approachable, more humble, actually. I quite like the term humble management, understanding more the people and their emotions, the individuals,
personalities.
And that's very important. And we can see that today diversity is recognized more as a strength. Another big change I have seen, and it's wonderful when you speak about gender diversity, is that younger men have really embraced now their role as parent. Mm-hmm. The shift into having the possibility of taking parental leave for both men and women has been, in my view, very important. Mm-hmm. But at the start, it wasn't. I think men were hesitating a little bit, like, should I really do that?
If they were allowed, or if they would
how is that going to be seen?
Career?
Am I losing any opportunity? I've never taken myself parental leave, to be fairly honest, but because I had my own choices. But it's interesting. So I see many more, and I remember many years ago, like 20 years ago, I thought it was super interesting. I was leading an Alfie working group, and I had a younger guy who was telling me, look, I cannot attend, that time there was no Zoom, it was more in person, and I cannot attend the meeting today because my children are sick and I need to stay home. And there was such a shift, of mentality. Yeah. So I really think it's an important shift of mentality. And then I think, as I mentioned, so it's really more shifted from this, just performance, but the focus really on long-term well-being of your team and professionals, which is very important to retain the talent. If we don't do that today, then organizations are simply not going to be viable anymore. And the other point I mentioned is more specific for Luxembourg. So again, when I joined Luxembourg, as I said, was probably certainly more international than what I could have seen in the automotive business in Paris, but at the same time still quite sort of Luxembourg and the Grande Région. Over the years, we've seen really an enormous development, attracting younger talent from all over Europe, but also all over the world. Our office is in the same building as Amazon. I can see, there's so much diversity of people, and that's super important, because I think diversity is what brings innovation. And innovation is so important to continue developing our jurisdiction.
Absolutely. I think that's an interesting point, actually, the international nature of Luxembourg, to put that on top on the element that we're discussing on gender equality. You need to take that into consideration, because different countries and cultures will have different ways of functioning culturally, of what maybe men might feel comfortable with. Do I feel comfortable taking parental leave? Yes or no? Same for women. In the culture they come from, do they feel comfortable being promoted to managerial positions? That's actually an element I hadn't really considered before, but it's true. It's a big part of that. But thinking also about, you talked a little bit about, also coming from the automotive industry, then you went into finance. You now work for a company which I've seen in my research places a strong emphasis on diversity. How do you implement this in your day-to-day activities? So in terms of management of teams, in terms of recruitment, are there any programs that are important that you would say maybe today RBS does differently to other companies that you've worked for before?
So I worked for this organization for two years, a little bit more than 2 years, and I certainly, when I was doing my interviews, I could feel already this element. So a lot of focus on the well-being on the people, on the person. I really wanted to work in a people organization. So I'd also done my research. And now that I'm here, I can vouch that that's definitely the case. So we are, NatWest as an organization has signed the UK HM Treasury Women in Finance Charter. But I think it's not only, well, one could think, do you really need to sign a charter, to make things happen? It's like when we started headquarters for women in boards. You really need that. And I was, in particular, in that one, not really for that, but it helps a lot. So signing a charter is important because it helps you focus, you have very clear objectives, and also you hold your leadership accountable for that. And that's, all examples, all actions, they need to come from the top. Now, does it have some results? For sure. So I'm very happy to mention that in NatWest, women on the board represented 55%. So 55% of our board is composed of women.
That's an impressive number in today's day and age.
It's actually very impressive. And then 43% is actually in the executive management team. 43% are also female. And this is ahead of industry benchmarks. Also, NatWest Group was ranked 9th in the FTSE 100 for women in leadership. And it's also recognized as a top 50 employer for gender equality. So it's important. In our own little RBSI Luxembourg, where we are a little bit over about 100 people, we also have a very good balanced split, maybe a little bit more skewed towards female. So we have about 60% of female, and about 57% are actually management. So we certainly see a good. And I can also mention that throughout my career, it is the first time I have a female manager, a female boss.
That's
So
actually crazy if you think about that. No, if you have
Quite, yes.
spent 30 years, and yeah, wow, okay.
So that's it. And actually, I changed twice, and both were female. So
Amazing.
it also tells a little bit about the statistics. So, but how, your question was, what do we do to apply that? So there's really a lot of initiatives, but it starts with hiring. So really ensure you have some balanced shortlist. You're having diverse interview panels, and we have a very specific skills-based assessment, which actually, helps to ensure you're unbiased when you take your decisions about anything. And I should also mention that diversity we focus on is not only gender, but is cultural background. So there's a lot of focus on the diversity and clear actions. When it is in promotions as well, we look into disaggregated data. We also focus very much on sponsorship, on coaching, on ensuring that we have mentors, clear succession planning that also takes in consideration, because if you want to have the leaders of the future, well, you need to look into your talents very early in their career, and also you need to be very clear on your succession planning and having already that balance of talents at that point in time. Otherwise, it's a little bit too late when you come. Well, I don't know, at my level. So that's super important. And honestly, it's also then all the combinations that you have in all organizations about flexible working. Of course, well-being is on the top of the page. But I think also an interesting one, which I had not seen before, is really speaking openly about challenges that women may have throughout their career. And that could be any type of challenge, and even things that probably don't speak about, like menopause. How many people
we talk
speak
more
about
and more
that?
about that now,
Exactly,
but recently.
to talk more about that, but just an example, of course, but really sort of being very open in how can we challenge ourselves to ensure we have that right diversity.
Yeah, and it affects
gender
the performance.
and other.
It's at the end of the day also a health issue, and
Exactly. So health issues can affect performance, and then you don't understand why, and then there is an imbalance there because it's a typical female issue. So I think the charter is important because you sign it once, but then it's how you make it live in the day-to-day. How do you promote the experience, and how you ensure that inclusion is not just a word, if I may say.
No, it's interesting. And actually it makes me think also, you once told me that you never had a mentor in the entirety of your career, but that you have had sponsors. But those sponsors were all men. Can you tell me more about that, and also what you just explained in terms of succession planning, how important that is, and that you need to have people behind you to sponsor you, to push you. So how has your experience been, having had a mentor, knowing that mentorship program are a big part of the conversation today as well?
Yeah, it's again, coming back to your first question, I forgot to mention. Yeah, at that time, you didn't really have mentorship programs. It didn't really exist.
Wasn't a thing. Yeah.
So I think it was more like if you were willing to progress, maybe you would try to shape your own role model or try to find someone. As for myself, I've always tried to learn from people, and I can't say I had a mentor. But I think that I've been certainly lucky or probably shaped opportunities, and I had at least, throughout my career, at least a few people that really believed in me and sponsored me. And that sponsorship is many things. It's, giving you a little bit more visibility in your job. I can mention two. They were all men. But of course, because I didn't have any sort of, there were very few females at the time that I could look up to in higher positions. So what did these several people, but two are actually very much important for me. So these were the people I think that first pushed me beyond, to go over and beyond, raise the bar, and also gave me visibility. So it's not only that, but gave me that visibility I wanted and I needed. So one, for instance, I remember he sponsored me into Alfie to chair my first working group, because I've chaired quite a few. And that was super, because I could, get that networking and visibility that you need. And the second one was a very visible person in the market in Luxembourg. It was when I moved from Schroders into a startup called the Director's Office at that time, and I really moved into that organization because I wanted to go over beyond and stretch myself. I was head of finance at Schroders, and I was a member of the executive committee. But I felt I wanted to do more. So I joined this organization as being CEO, which was difficult, because it was the first time. A startup. And I think I learned a lot from a few people in that organization who were, certainly 20 years older than I was, and had very, very big experience in the market. But it was, again, sort of that, I don't know, pushing, really be very demanding. It's important. And not only that, but also giving me that visibility. And again, one of the partners there actually was the first one who gave me the opportunity to speak in public.
Okay. Which
was very interesting, because I really enjoyed it.
But you had to be pushed to do the first one? Or?
I think I didn't need to be pushed. I think I wanted that. But he gave me the opportunity. So
and
I was replacing him. I was replacing him on a conference, I remember. It was quite a big one, with 300-400 people the first time. But yeah, you need to be receptive as well. So you can't just sit and wait for things. You need to be a little bit receptive. So I think you need. For me, it has worked. But I think it's worked because I have also, what can I say, given the right signals.
That you're ready, to go out of your comfort zone and to
and
push
obviously,
yourself.
Very, very grateful. I met people who were happy to sponsor me.
And apart from sponsorship, you're a leader of organization. What kind of environment or what kind of things can you create to make these opportunities happen for women in the organization? Is there anything else, would you say, that either you have experienced yourself or that you do in your job today that you think is helpful?
For sure. So there's a lot of initiatives, but I think also it is up to a leader, when you see you have a talent, if you see a talent, say a female who's probably a little bit more I would say, laid back or shy, doesn't feel like they are ready to take the initiative, well, probe them a little bit and push on that visibility. So if you go into a meeting, say to that person, I want you to present. What do you think? Really, really sort of
push them
into that gently, of course, because you need to see if your people are receptive to that. And I've done it a few times, and you can be super surprised, because you see people. I don't know. I've always felt I like people, and I felt a few times. This person is super. It's wonderful. They do such a nice job, but often, especially women, they sort of think it's enough for people to think that you can be promoted. No, it's not
just
like that. Just
by doing your day-to-day.
No, it's not like that. So you need to be more visible and you need to be pushed. So I think this is really good. And so it's ensuring that you can give that visibility, and that it's not just the first person that speaks that get that visibility. So for me, that's really important.
So it's really this kind of what you said earlier: go out of your comfort zone. Being given the opportunity. So actually giving the opportunity as a leader is what's really important.
Yeah, I think it's important that we come into the human, emotional leadership or humble leadership. It's really putting yourself in the shoes of others. Maybe try to remember
what
how you
were
were
like at that age.
How you were at that age, and what you would have liked actually people to do for you that maybe you didn't have. And that's, I think, it's the real it's the real sort of support and help that a senior can give to a more junior, talented person.
Yeah, because that professional confidence you have to build, and you can only build that if you are given, let's say, the space to maybe make mistakes or to try things, to see what works for you. So yeah, that's actually interesting.
Yeah, which makes
approach.
me think, yeah, it's also giving, I forgot about that, creating this safe space, a space where people feel safe, as you said, to experiment, to ask questions, to ask a stupid question, you know, which is never stupid, I find out, and it is accepted to make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a really
if you
important
can learn
point.
from your mistakes.
Yeah, because if you're in a high
course.
pressure environment and you feel that every mistake you make is going to hold you back, you're not going to try. I guess you're always going to stay in your lane, essentially. And,
Yeah, exactly.
and not push yourself.
Exactly. But coming back, so it is also something that leaders must shape.
Yeah. Yeah, and it takes a different type of leader, a more modern type of leader.
I suppose, you could call it more modern. Yeah, we
Yeah.
certainly, all leaders will have to adapt. If it's something that I don't feel naturally comfortable with, then yeah, you need to certainly adapt.
That's actually a point now, thinking of the next generation or the Gen Zs or the younger generation. Their expectation on leadership, would you say that that's different? So more the kind of modern leader that you described, and also in terms of, you know, progressing in your career, having a successful career, what would be the advice that you would give them?
So yeah, obviously there's some observations I can have on how people have changed, and I have myself two daughters, one who's 26 and one who's 19, and even between them I see the difference, which is quite funny. But certainly there's an expectation of I want to have a purpose in what I'm doing. You see that all the time. It's purposeful. I wouldn't say that I didn't have a purpose when I started working. I think I really wanted to, you know, do a job I enjoyed and could fulfill myself, but probably was less high on the agenda that we see today with the younger generation. And it's not always easy, but obviously you need to adapt as a leader. And the other thing I observe is also there's a need to make things happen quickly. And I don't know if it's a fact of social media or the fact that today, you know, you go into Copilot of ChatGPT and you ask a question and get an answer immediately. Yeah. We didn't get answers immediately.
Yeah, you kind of had to work for your answers, chase people.
You needed to do research, so it could be a little bit of that. And so what I would say is that you still need to have that good balance. So if you want to have a career, well, things cannot happen immediately. And you still need to find the right balance for you into your well-being, personal life, and the stretch that, face it, you need to take if you want to have a career. Take examples of women like me and others who have hopefully managed to have a, you know, well, not hopefully, have managed to have a family and two kids and still have a career. Well, it's not easy because you take it a lot on you and in your time. So you need to find that right balance. I think that's important. So things do not happen immediately, and you still need to work very hard. Advices I would give, there are three, and we spoke a little bit about that. So the first, I think it's very important to go out your comfort zone and actually to do it quite early. Don't wait for that. Start right away. It's probably something I've been doing personally quite unconsciously, but all the time. I have been always wanted to go out of the comfort zone, and when I was reflecting on my career, it can be sometimes a little bit strange because I have been changing position when I was at the top of that position. So really,
Did you feel that you hit the ceiling of what you did?
And and some could have said, okay, I'm here, you know, but I felt that I was hitting the ceiling, not in a negative way, but a ceiling of probably my personal ceiling for growth in a certain organization, and I think it's very important that you feel it yourself. Another anecdote. The other day I was speaking to a trainee in our organization in another jurisdiction, and it was interesting because I could feel a lot of talent, of course, but also a lot of pressure. Pressure for a career. Pressure, what you think, what is the right choice? Should I stay in an organization for 30 years or should I move on? My answer was, why are you stressing so much? Why do you stress about that? You will feel it when it's the right time for you. Yeah. You can stay in an organization for 30 years because you have been moving around in this organization and had super opportunities to challenge yourself, to learn. Or you may feel that it's time for you to move on. But don't stress. I felt this stress.
It's true,
yeah,
because I've noticed this too with the younger generation of wanting to. As soon as you have your studies finished, you need your plan. Where am I going to go? And this decision is the most important one because this will be the decision of my life. Rather than, I will start a position somewhere, see how it goes. I learn from it. I shift. I go somewhere else. But I don't think that thinking is there. I've observed that too. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have the same with my daughter who's 19. I said to her, take a gap here so you can reflect a little bit because it's this stress. And then the second one is really don't be afraid. And it's important. And it comes back to this, it's important in an organization also to have that environment where people can feel safe to experiment. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't be afraid of asking, I want to do this project.
I think I can do these projects.
I can do this, because then you may lose some opportunities. It's important, again, to be visible. And what can happen? What is the worst? Well, people tell you no. Okay, fine. Then you work on your consciousness of who you are, so you learn quite a lot also by getting a no. Sometimes it's very important. And the other one, which is also very important to do very quickly in your career, and it comes back to opportunities that you get to be visible, visibility and networking. Something I've learned to do quite early. It's very important to build your network because that network will bring you opportunities outside your current environment to learn, to maybe find a sponsor, a mentor. Doesn't need to be someone in your organization, but also to learn about opportunities, to have ideas, come back to innovation. I think I got some of my best ideas with speaking with people. And then, maybe I should be doing this. I never thought about doing something in this way. So that would be these are my
your tips. Do you feel that women network less, or so young professionals, that you see more? I mean, I'm just trying to think of all the receptions and networking receptions I've attended here in Luxembourg over the last 10 years. Some of them, depending on what type of event it is, there's definitely a lot more men than women. Is that something you observe or has changed? Because I do feel that depending on what industry it is, it can change. Also today, there's a lot more women, but maybe do women put that as a not integral part of their professional life, as something that is an add-on?
It is interesting, your question. I should have mentioned that before, because you're right, obviously when you still go out to networking events, the predominance is male. It is important, I think, but obviously you need, again, it's your choice and you need to feel comfortable in doing that and feel confident you can do it in your, in a balanced way. But I think it's important. Now there could be different type of events. You don't need to go to evening events. You can go to lunchtime events. You can go to afternoon events. Maybe some breakfast events. But that is not only the events. I mean, events are good because then you meet new people. But it's also this one-to-one networking.
So
you
asking
meet
someone out for coffee.
Yeah, ask someone for a coffee or for lunch. That's actually quite powerful as well. I mean, it's difficult in my early career. I must say, I have been doing a lot and been traveling a lot and been to lots of events, and now I see a little bit of a shift. I've done a lot, and I'm much more picky on what I do. Certainly no more than 2 per week, which is already enough. But yes, as I said, it's really your need to find your balance. But I think it's important. Just trying to find your way of networking, but network is super important. Yeah. Do it, yeah.
Well, we've come now to this section of the podcast, which is our special little thing, is where we ask our interview guests to ask the next guest a question. So I actually have a question for you from our previous podcast guest, which is Michaela Forelli from M&G, who I'm sure you know as well.
I do, yeah.
She has come with a question. I personally think it's not an easy question, so I'll be very interested to hear your answer. And if you don't like the question, you need to have a word with Michaela on this. But Michaela asks, if you had to share an anecdote that shows how women bring a unique perspective into risk assessment and resilience building, what would that example be?
So it is not an easy question. I had to think, because I wouldn't want to go into, some biased or generalities, in this answer. But I think one thing that I've observed is that women have a tendency to pause a little bit more. So let's take an example of, you're in a committee and you have a report, KPIs, whatever it could be, and everything looks green. What I've observed is that women are probably the ones that will pause a moment and will think, okay, it looks all green, but have you looked into all angles? Okay, you have, it's green, you have it's green today, but what happens if you have another scenario, and would you have a durable sort of solution to that particular problem?
Longer-term vision.
A longer-term vision, so bring a little bit more of that probably challenge, but also long-term vision. That's what I have observed, but really sort of this pausing, maybe a little bit, and reflecting and trying to find a challenge in there. I don't know if I can bring a little bit of a personal angle in there. I am a woman, so I don't know if I do different things different than men. But one thing I do remember a few years ago when I was running an AFM, a third-party AFM, and when you run a third-party AFM, you take a lot of risks, okay?
Yeah.
Because you're a third-party
you are
manager,
responsible, yeah.
and you're responsible, but also you sort of appoint an external portfolio manager, and you hold that responsibility. And I was very keen, obviously, in reviewing all of the due diligence reports that we had on external managers. And I remember this one because everything looked very clean, very green. And I don't know, it's strange.
You had a feeling?
I had this gut feeling, I don't like this. I didn't know why. I didn't like it. And I started to, I think it's because you had one very clear UBO. I never like when you have one sort of only one key, person. And I started to dig, I started to Google, because there was no Copilot or something. And at the end, I found a lot of adverse media. I found more than there was in that report. And I ended up not taking this client, and it was actually quite a lot of income, but I did take that decision.
That's
so it's more about, it's not, I don't think women, sometimes people think women are risk adverse. It's not about being risk adverse. It's about having the right risk appetite and having the right measurement of that risk, and also measuring the impact and having the right measures, actually, not on measures here, but measures to ensure that the risk is properly managed.
And that human element, because it went back to who is behind.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Manager.
So it's a very difficult question, because it can be a little bit skewed. But that's what I have observed.
Interesting. Anyway. Well, I hope Michaela is listening.
I hope she likes the answer.
And actually now we come to the section where you can ask a question to our next interviewed guests. So you can decide if you want to make it a hard one or if you want to make it a kind question. So what would be your question to our next guest?
Probably I'm a little bit kinder. So my question is, if you could fix one thing in the workplace tomorrow, the workplace or tomorrow, what would move the needle the most? One thing.
Great question. I look forward to hearing the answer. But I think that's all the time we have for today. And really, thank you for coming in. It's been a really interesting conversation. And I hope that our listeners have taken away some interesting advice and tips from you. And thank you for coming in, Daniela.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in again. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. We're available on most of the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and obviously also on YouTube. Hope you tune in at the next episode where we can find out what the answer is to Daniela's very interesting question. Thank you so much.